All right, we'll call the February 5th meeting of City Council to order. If you can, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. As is our custom, we'll now pause for a moment of silence. All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Baker.
Here.
Bullock.
Here.
Keppel.
Here.
Marks. Schachner. Strebig.
Here.
Rader. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I get that right? Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held January 16, 2024.
Move to dispose of those without the necessity of reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. We're gonna. So I know we have quite a few people signed in to speak, which is wonderful. So without objection, I'm going to like to move items. We'll take let's do item 11 and 12 first. And then we'll do 13 and then 10.
Item 11, communication from council members Strebig, Keppel, Marks, and Schachner regarding resolution to oppose Ohio House Bill 68.
Councilperson Strebig.
Thank you, President Keppel. Before I read my communication to the mayor and members of City Council, may I say three things?
Yes, please do.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank my colleagues, Cindy Marks, President Keppel, and Vice President Schachner for co-sponsoring this resolution. I want to thank the brave souls here tonight, members of our trans community, members of the LGBTQIA+ community, and the equality allies that raise their voices against the hate bills that continue to pour out of the Republican-led state legislature. 2023 will be remembered as the least productive year at our state capitol since 1955. And while lawmakers are not finding common sense ways to make us safer and improve our lives, they have found plenty of time to attack children. The second thing I want to share is a poem by Martin Niemöller from Nazi-controlled Germany in 1946. First, they came for the communists, but I was not a communist, so I did not speak out. Then they came for the socialists and the trade unionists, but I was not one of them, so I did not speak out. Then they came for the Jews, but I was not Jewish, so I did not speak out. Then they came for me. There was no one left to speak out. Lastly, I'd like to share a quote from our First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt. Remember, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Dear Mayor and members of City Council, please join us in denouncing the recently passed Ohio House Bill 68, another vicious attack on Americans in the transgender community. This bill eliminates crucial medical health care for children and terminates their pursuit of happiness through organized sports in kindergarten through college. To eliminate necessary health care for our community members already susceptible to depression and suicide is unacceptable. To act as if they know more than medical experts, caregivers, and parents is disgraceful. We will not sit quietly and watch them force an exodus of transgender children and their families. Ohio lawmakers supporting this bill are acting as if they have more knowledge than those who have lived experience. This is a very dangerous performance and should be stopped immediately. If they continue to outlaw every experience that they haven't had or can't understand, what will be left? A fearful, closed-minded version of existence and the collapse of our vibrant and diverse society. We must protect, accept, appreciate, and support all of Ohio's children. We must advocate for the healthy mental and physical development of all children and young adults. It is widely understood that through play, children develop emotionally, socially, creatively, physically, cognitively, and their communication is enhanced and increased. Both the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the National Collegiate Athletic Association have or had inclusive policies and processes to follow to address the handful of Ohio students brave enough to participate in their chosen sport. But that was not good enough for extremist lawmakers incapable of recognizing experiences outside of their own. With this bill, our state is moving further away from truth and fact to appease extremists bent on creating a society where their vision of democracy is one-upping each other with greater hate. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Councilperson Striebig. I will first move to receive and file this communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, and then I'll open for discussion. Vice President Schackner.
Thank you, President Keppel, and thank you, Councilmember Striebig, for really spearheading this effort, making sure that Council is on the record against this House bill and the actions of the Ohio General Assembly. Particularly one side of the Ohio General Assembly, it looks like. Now, unfortunately, we had done similar resolutions over and over again because it just doesn't stop. Session after session, they keep attacking some of our most vulnerable community members, vulnerable people that are just trying to live their lives. And for a party that is really saying their hands off, they sure care a lot about children's genitalia and what adults are doing with their own lives. And it's sick. I mean, you could call individuals out. There's Click up there, there's Sereno, there's all sorts of people out there that are just cowards and sickos, really, just so involved in people's most private and personal decision making that they want to take away because they don't understand it or for some reason they don't agree with it. Well, if you don't agree with it, don't do it. That's been, I think, most of our stances forever. And I think the most upsetting, and not the most upsetting, but something that really shows the heart of these people up there in General Assembly is when residents that this impacts and whose families they impact, when they go up to speak for opponent testimony, they leave the room. They're not willing to stand up for what they say they believe in, to hear how it impacts their constituents, because they're cowards. And enough. Leave people alone. Try to make the world a better place. I don't understand why you're up there, just making it harder for people to live their lives. That's all we want to do, live our lives. Enough. And thank you all for attending and for your commitment to advocating not for you, only yourself, but for your community members and people that you'll likely never meet, but you have an impact on. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Schackner. Councilwoman Marks, who is a co-sponsor of this.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Councilwoman Striebeck for bringing this resolution forward. It's such a very important resolution, and it's important that we in Lakewood take a stand for what we believe in. In 2016, when we passed the Human Rights Ordinance, we took a stand to say all people are created equal and have a place here in Lakewood and need to feel welcome. And I'm so thrilled to see a family that came out and supported the Human Rights Ordinance back then is here tonight in support of this resolution. And I want to thank you so much for coming. It's so wonderful to see you. So wonderful to see how grown up and mature you are and that you're still here in Lakewood. And I hope you stay here as well. But it is very important that we take a stand and speak to what we feel is important here in Lakewood so people can feel welcome. And so much has changed to the negative since 2016 that I just am astonished every day when I turn on the news and hear more of our human rights are being attacked and taken away from us. So thank you, Councilwoman Striebeck, for bringing this forward, and I'm very proud to be a co-signer on this. Thank you.
Any other colleagues? Councilman Rader.
Thank you. I'll add my voice to the chorus here and thank Councilwoman Striebeck. You know, it was great. I always loved it when you came and spoke to us and spoke truth to power. And now your power speaking truth to even more power. So I'm just really honored to be here with you in this moment. And I can't really add to your beautiful words, all of you, just fantastic. I will say to the audience, thank you for the members of the LGBTQAI+ community, and particularly the trans members of our community who are here today. You know, even just living in this state, I know it's becoming scarier because of these horrendous, life-threatening initiatives our state's doing. But to come out and speak tonight takes even more courage, and I want to say thank you for being here. And just know that, I think you're getting a sense here, this government is for you and behind you and stands with you. And I think that's really what we're trying to do tonight, is to let you know that we're here for you tonight. And again, thank you. And when you do come up, don't be afraid, don't be shy, don't be nervous. Here you are loved and welcomed. Thank you.
Well said. Councilman Baker.
Research into this, so thank you to Councilwoman Striebeck for bringing this up. And I don't often agree with our governor, Governor DeWine, but I knew that he initially vetoed this legislation, and I went and looked for his veto statement because I was curious as to what it said, and particularly this passage, which if you'll indulge me, I'll read it. I think as a parent spoke to me. Ultimately, I believe this is about protecting human life. Many parents have told me that their child would be dead today if they had not received the treatment they received from Ohio Children's Hospital. I've been told by those who are now grown adults that but for this care, they would have taken their lives when they were teenagers. What so many of these people and their families have told me is that nothing they have faced in life could have ever prepared them for this extremely tough journey. Parents are making decisions about the most precious thing in their lives to their child, and none of us should underestimate the gravity and difficulty of those decisions. Were I to sign this bill, and it would become law, Ohio would be saying that the state, the government, knows what's best medically for your child rather than the two people who love that child the most, their parents. And the irony is that when you look at this bill, it talks about parents' rights. And so if that isn't kind of inverting what a principle is, I don't know what is. So thank you for bringing this up, and I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Councilman Bullock.
Thanks, Madam President. I'm happy to join my colleagues. Councilwoman Striebeck very eloquently stated, inspiring before, during, and during the communication. So thanks for your leadership, and also to my colleagues. I look forward to hearing from the citizens that are here tonight and to joining the effort. And I agree, it's a troubling, to put it mildly, political movement to basically seek gain by attacking any group, and it's appropriate for our community to put up a boundary and show a different way. So I look forward to joining in support.
Thank you.
And I know we have a lot of people signed in for public comment, I believe, so do we have that sheet? That would be great. And while Corey's getting that, I'll just briefly add, because I don't want to take up space and I want to make more space for those who are personally impacted, but I thank you, Councilwoman Striebeck, for bringing this forward. We have unfortunately had to do a lot of these resolutions recently, but I'm also grateful that this body does take up these resolutions and is willing to stand up and speak out. This issue impacts my, I'm sorry, my family, and when Councilman Baker was reading those words by DeWine, the mental health aspects alone of not being able to be seen for who you are, being treated for who you are, and being allowed to be who you are, it's devastating to watch for your loved ones. So thank you all to my colleagues, and thank you for being here. And I'm sorry, I'm going to turn it over to the first speaker signed in to speak. Is Robert, no, I'm sorry, wait, we're on this one. Chelsea Brennan, I believe. And if I've said that wrong, I apologize. So when you come up to the podium, if you push the button until it's green, and then just state your name and address if you feel comfortable, address the chair, and each person will have up to 5 minutes to speak. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Lakewood City Council and Mayor. My name is Chelsea Brennan, and I work in Lakewood, but I do not live in Lakewood. I'm from Randolph, Ohio, which is a small little rural town in Portage County. You see a lot of rebel flags over there. So working up here for the past 3 years has been a godsend to me. I've met the most wonderful people. I feel comfortable. Not only do I work here, but I eat at several of the restaurants. I finally found a mechanic that I don't have to worry that's going to sabotage my truck if I'm driving down the road or a wheel falls off. A little background of me, I knew I was trans from the age of 4. I grew up in a Irish Catholic family, which comes along with the shame, the guilt. God's going to send you to hell if you are anything other than what we say. I put up with verbal abuse, other kind of abuse from other adult families, aunts. As a child growing up that way, I was always in fear of being beat for it, or if I was to push it in my teen years, to becoming homeless. Moved on to getting married. The dysphoria, it's just something now you have more information, but that became an issue in my marriage. I found myself standing on a bridge in Akron wanting to jump off. If I could not be around my kids because of who I was, who I didn't understand I was at the time. House Bill 68 is critical for parents to not only give proper health care to their children, but to give a child a safe place. If you take that away, it's going to give more parents the right to think they can abuse them. Not the ones that really care, but so many trans kids or LGBT kids are thrown to the streets. There's a lot of organizations, LGBT Center, that are working with that. Another issue on top of House Bill 68 is they're wanting, yes, DeWine vetoed it, but he wanted to add more restrictions for adults. House Bill 110, which went into place 2 years ago, gave the ability to refuse, treat, and pay from doctors, insurance companies. As I was just informed, my insurance company is no longer going to pay for my hormone treatment, citing that it hasn't been clarified under FDA as to treat gender dysphoria. So, don't know where I'm going to go with that yet. I just hope that other cities such as Lakewood takes a stand like you are taking. I'm very grateful for what you're doing. I am looking to move here because I feel safe here, and I haven't felt safe anywhere else in the 56 years I've been alive. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, so thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that. And next, Seamus Dickinson. Again, name and address if you feel comfortable, and address the chair, and you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, City Council, President, Mayor, esteemed officials. My name is Seamus Dickinson. I'm a local drag performer, realtor, and proud member of the local LGBTQ+ community. I have stood up at this podium before speaking towards the resolution against other House bill. While I cannot speak to the trans experience, I can use my voice to speak out against this heinous legislation that is House Bill 68. Like many states-leaning, red-leaning governing bodies, House Bill 68 is the malign persecution of another human being. 24 senators and 65 representatives felt it was in their best interest to intervene in the welfare of another human being within our state borders. These people feel it is their right to deny and take away crucial health care with no concern for how many or how much harm these individuals and families may endure. Also, to tie the hands of healthcare professionals whose duty, by oath, is to do no harm, and to take away a family's right to provide the best care for their loved one. These human beings are put in a perilous predicament, and many are looking to leave our state in order to seek out the continued care needed to survive. If you've noticed, I've used human being and not trans person. All any human being ever wants is to live their lives. Why does this bother so many people in our governing body? As history tends to repeat itself, this legislation will eventually lose, and common sense law will take its place. That is the hope, and that is the goal in this resolution put forward by the beautiful city of Lakewood, is one step closer to that goal. And I would like to quote Dr. Martin Luther King: "Of all forms of inequality, injustice in health care is the most shocking and inhumane." Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, Sean Miller, you're next up.
Hello, my name is Sean Miller. Good evening, Lakewood City Council and Mayor George. Thank you for granting me this opportunity to speak. When I was 6 years old, I moved to Lakewood. As I grew up in Lakewood, I realized how lucky I was to live here. I was blessed to live in a town with parks on every corner, a huge library with endless information, and endless opportunities provided by my school systems. When my family and I were moving, we looked all over Ohio to find towns that would be safe for me, because I am a young transgender girl. We found Lakewood. By everyone in this wonderful community, from my teachers to my Girl Scout leaders, have seen me and accepted me for the girl that I am. I cannot express how deeply grateful I am that you are considering this resolution. You are showing that Lakewood values of inclusion, diversity, and you are standing up for young queer and transgender children like me all over Ohio. Since I've been young, I've been fighting laws that have been trying to erase my existence, but House Bill 68 is easily the most horrific one I have faced. No one loves me more and wants to protect me more than my mom and my dad. But House Bill 68 is stripping their rights as parents to make decisions for my medical care. Now more than ever is the time to speak up on behalf of all trans youth in Ohio, and I thank you all for doing so.
Thank you, Sean. All right, Shannon Miller. You're an old pro at this. Both of you are, so thank you for being here.
So, unfortunately,
Unfortunately.
it's not what we expect to be doing. Mayor George, City Council, thank you for allowing us to speak today for our family who is clearly affected by HB 68. HB 68 champions discrimination and hate and targeted at children, which is unbelievable to me. The idea that they would deny medically recommended, proven, and life-saving care to youth is absolutely appalling. And the fact that they would do it by making up stories about our families and our children and creating my daughter and other transgender children into the boogeyman is absolutely horrifying to me. Our lives have been dominated by trying to stop anti-LGBT legislation, and this is by far the most hateful for us. We've done everything you're supposed to help educate people. We've met with legislators face-to-face, including Click. So you have no idea. And then writing letters, making phone calls, being in education sessions, going out and talking in the community, whatever we could to educate people and be open to things so that they could ask us questions. Often met with hostility, mostly from the legislatures, from people who are against my child even existing. Our hope is that by meeting with people, they see that my daughter is not the boogeyman, nor are any trans children, and that our family, like all families with trans kids, are terribly boring and not interesting, and there's nothing horrific about us like they want to write in their fairy tales. We have had to fight constantly for our child to simply exist. Some days it feels like we're fighting alone, but isolation is the key. By bombarding us constantly with this legislation, they're trying to wear us out and wear out our allies. Isolation is the tool of an abuser. Creating a scapegoat or a boogeyman is the tools of an abuser. To stoke fears to motivate people's behavior toward hate is part of an abusive behavior. Constantly telling someone they do not exist, they do not have the right to exist, or they are not good enough in the way that they exist within the world are all tools of abusers. This law is an abuse of power, and it attacks our children, and we need to stop this abusive behavior. All of us have been at some point in our life where we question who we are and are trying to figure that out. But imagine being 12, 13, 14, 15, trying to figure out who you are when the people who are supposed to be protecting you and your legislator are trying to tell you that you don't exist at all. It's exhausting. And again, it also feels isolating and alone. So when I was asked what this resolution would do for us, since they've already passed this hateful legislation, I said the same thing that Sean did when I told her that you were doing this. It helps us feel less alone. It helps to know that people are fighting for us, because it's nice when people say things, but when they step up and they put action behind it, it makes us know that we can exist here in Lakewood and stay in our home where we want to stay. Because we do need help to stop the abuse of power and the abuse of these children, because it is abusive to take away medical and mental health care. It is abusive to take away the rights for them to be with their peers doing the things that they love. It is abuse to take away their parent rights with people who care about them. We need people to step up, and even if you're not the one to write the letter or you're not the one to make a phone call, to sit in your living room when people talk about these fictitious stories about our children and our families, to say, not in my house, we don't say that. Not in my school, not on our sports teams, not in our doctor's office, and definitely not in our town. So thank you for passing this and saying that this is not acceptable where we live.
And Michael Miller.
Michael Miller, 1457 Westwood Avenue. Thank you, Your Honor, and the Council for having us here this evening. When we moved here from Michigan 10 years ago, we did a lot of research on the Cleveland suburbs, online forums, we spoke to school officials, we met with homeowners, we met with business owners, and after careful consideration, we chose Lakewood. And as a safe space, we have invested in Lakewood. We're active in H2O, we're active in the Girl Scouts. I was PTA president at Grant. I was PTA vice president at Harding. I'm on the board of the high school PTA now, which I know means I peaked early in my PTA career. We've invested in our home. We've added on with all the proper permits, pulled them all, and have clearly invested in Lakewood's thriving restaurant scene. The least interesting thing about us is that we have a transgender daughter. Nobody should care. But last Thursday, I had to meet with the HR team in my office to talk about transferring out of state, and if things don't go well in November, a work visa out of the country. This is ignorant, arrogant, and mean legislation, and you need to understand that all these bills, they're not just aimed at LGBT families, they're aimed at progressive communities like Lakewood. Because families who are looking around for a safe place to stay, they're not going to look at Lakewood because they're not going to look at Ohio. And that's part of their point. What hurts 4 people today in the long term is meant to dent the growth of communities like Lakewood, to dent the businesses in communities like Lakewood, and to erase the voice of communities like Lakewood. You lose us, you lose one battle. You lose what Lakewood means to us, and you lose the war. Thank you. Please continue to fight, not for us as we leave our safe space. Fight for the future families who want to make Lakewood their safe space. Thank you.
All right, and then Paul Dodisman.
Well, y'all, I don't have no paper to go off of, so I'm winging this. I did this at the last minute. I was going through Facebook, and I happened to see someone ask us to attend this meeting. Just lately, I got done reading a book called Gay Like Me, A Father Writes to His Son by Richie Jackson. It's a very popular book in our community. And he's talking to his gay son that he had a surrogate with to have this son. The son's gay. He's raising the son on his own. And one of the things he stated to his son was, my biggest achievement in life is wanting to give you peace of mind. To be able to be who you are, love who you are, and love those around you, and never judge. Always have open arms. The one thing he stated the most that really hit me was, this community, the gay community, and the transgender are part of our family. Don't mess with family. Don't mess with family, because we will stand up. I have marched many a march, and I've been the front line. Washington, D.C., Cincinnati, Chicago, you name them, I've been to San Francisco. I lived it, and I thought to myself, I'm done, I'm tired, let the young take over. What they do, come back after another part of our family. Leave our family alone. We will rise. We will rise. We will rise, and we will stand for our family members. I have a grandson. I have 3 grandchildren. My grandson has a little friend who's a little girl that wants to be a boy. I raised my 2 daughters here. They went to Lakewood High School. I was here for 20 years, left for 15 to be down with my grandchildren, and came back home. I bring my grandson up here, and he says, everybody seems to get along at the pool. He goes, it doesn't matter who you are or what you are, color, everybody gets along. I said, that's how it's supposed to be. That's the way it should be. And that's how it should be for your friend, your little friend that he had to fight at school for, to protect him, because he wants to be who he is. Now, in that family, the mother approached my daughter at school and says, she tells the story about the little girl wanting to be a a boy. And she says, I'm afraid to talk to anybody, but for some reason I feel I can talk to you. And she goes, you came to the right person. She goes, my father's gay. He raised us. He taught us to love everybody unconditionally, and that family is family. You don't walk away from family ever. And you do not walk away from your child. She says, I don't have a problem with that. It's my husband. He's having a very difficult time with it. I don't understand that. I'll never understand it. Never. When I came out after a marriage of 10 years, good friends, and told my father I'm getting a divorce, he went in the back bedroom, threw $10,000 on the table and said, get it, get on with your life, live your life. It's time to live your life. It's time for all of us to live our lives. And then being able to feel good about life. This is why I came back to Lakewood, because Lakewood is home for me. My daughter said, I hate to see you go, but I know it's home for you. We have to find some way, shape, or form. I'm not a Christian, but if you saw Jesus today and he was walking this earth, this is how he would be. He'd have his hands behind his back, tears rolling out, crying a river over the behavior of these people in the Senate, in the House, how they're acting. I'm furious, I'm angry, and we need to fight. We need to get up and fight about this. And it's going to happen. People are going to get on the streets, and they're going to stand up for our family. We embrace our family every moment. I can tell you so many times how certain parts of the family were affected. And we got out on the streets and stood up for them. That's all I have to say. Family.
Thank you. So that's everyone who is signed in to speak on, and we're actually still currently on the communication. Yes, you can. That's okay. Come on up and just say your name and please speak.
Hello, Council. My name is Cassandra Taylor. Thank you for hearing me today. I'm not currently a Lakewood resident, but have been considering moving back here. I have lived here in the past. I was a mail carrier here for 5 years. I currently live in Elyria. I feel that my story is very relevant to the current issue and thought you should hear it. I grew up in North Olmsted, and at 12 years old, I started to question my gender. That was 1984. Gender wasn't a thing. We didn't have any of the current terminology that there is now. But we still had plenty of bullying about being, gay or anything else. So I did not get help. There was no counseling. There was no treatment. There was no therapy. I certainly didn't get any medical treatment. Instead, I listened to the bullies. I listened to what my own father and what society told me to do, and I grew up to be a man. And I therefore then lived almost the next 35 years of my life with depression, with anxiety, with suicidal tendencies, with abusive behavior towards partners. Until last year, in January of 2023, I came out to myself, I came out to my partner as a transgender woman. I immediately got a therapist who started helping. In March, I started getting hormone treatment. I also became, I dove into the local transgender community. I've been to support groups of 4 different types, including one that meets here in Lakewood once a month. I now am also co-administrator of the trans family group that meets at the LGBT Center once a month. I have literally, in just 1 year, met hundreds of members of our trans community, and every single one of them is a good human being that, again, as you stated earlier, just wants to live their life. When I first came out, I had no idea I was going to have to become an advocate for a community that I knew very little about. But here I am standing before you, ready to defend. All of our community right now has 2 words in their mind: fight or flight. Well, I'm here to fight for them. This last year has been absolutely the happiest of my entire life. being on the hormone care and getting the mental help that I received has made me not only happy with who I am, but a better person in general. My partner at home and our relationship is better now than it has been in years, thanks to me being honest and true with everyone around me. I have been blessed that in that time, all of my friends and family have been very supportive of my transition. However, I have learned that I'm an extremely rare person in that case, and that the vast majority of our community does not get their support. Their families refuse to talk to them. They get kicked out of their homes. They get disbanded. In the end, I will wrap up with this. Take my story and know that because I didn't get the care I desperately needed, that they are talking about denying our children from now, that the consequences will live with them their entire lives. Please don't subject our children to that. Get them the help they need. That's all.
Thank you. All right, so we do have an e-comment, which we've actually been having our discussion here on the communication. So what we're about to do, unless anyone else who has not yet signed in to speak, who wanted to come up and speak, once, twice, okay. So what we're about to do then is we'll finish voting on receiving and filing the communication that Councilman Striebeck just read, and then we'll move on to the actual resolution. So after this first vote that you hear us say, that's not going to be when it's passed. The very next thing we read will be the resolution. And so when we say a move to adopt on the resolution, that's when you'll know that that is adopted. So just wanted to make sure that we're all clear on what's happening. Okay, so we did have an e-comment on the actual resolution, and while we're, yeah. Well, we can pull it up when we get to that. Okay, so let's just go ahead and we'll do the vote on the communication. So we had moved to receive and file the communication, and we just had our discussion. So all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. So now we'll move on to the actual resolution. Here.
Item 12.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-03, a resolution to oppose Ohio House Bill 68, which restricts gender-affirming health care and sports participation for transgender youth, undermining the judgment of medical professionals, the recommendations of the Ohio High School Athletic Association, and the loving intuition of the families who support transgender youth.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes. The motion is, the resolution is adopted. So we'd like to, we're going to take a moment here. Anyone who would like to come up and join us for a photo with a copy of the ceremonial resolution, you're welcome to gather down front.
That's all of you. Come on.
Family, friends, and allies. Family, anybody, come on up here. Family, friends, and allies. We'll put Sean in the front of there. Hey, friend. Hey.
Everybody good? Okay. Ready? Good.
meet you. Thank you.
Right. And item 13.
Item 13, Resolution 2024-04, a resolution to join with states, municipalities, and other jurisdictions around the country to designate February as Black History Month in the city of Lakewood by celebrating African American culture and paying tribute to the contributions of African Americans.
So I will move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. And discussion, I'll just kick off by saying, well, I brought this forward. By no means is this me alone, and I want to particularly thank the co-chairs of the Anti-Racism Task Force who helped look this over and make sure of the language and reviewed it for us. So I'd want to make sure to call that out. So when I was pulling this together, I didn't quite realize that it doesn't look like the city of Lakewood has ever done a Black History Month resolution, which kind of surprised me. And I think, for me, I'll just speak for myself, is growing up, I think learning about Black History Month was something that was always celebrated. You studied in school. I had the privilege of going to a more progressive school system that, where that was taught. Working in the library, we were very busy during Black History Month, helping students learn about Black history, and so it was something that I think I sort of took for granted. But I think it's important that we don't take it for granted, and obviously, Black history is history. It's African American history is our history. And is something that we need to continue to learn about all year long. But I thought it was important, and I want to thank Councilman Rader also, who reminded me that we needed to do this year. So thank you for that reminder, and again, thank you to the co-chairs of the Anti-Racism Task Force, Angelina Steiner and Laura Rodriguez-Carbone, for their assistance with this. So with that, I'll see other discussion. Councilman Rader.
Just one quick comment. Thank you, Madam President. You've said it all just about. Thank you for your leadership in really pulling this together. Thank you to the Anti-Racism Task Force for putting energy and time into this. Every year I do a Twitter series on local Black leaders that built this area. So I just want to acknowledge them and also, go to my Twitter. I refuse to call it X. Go to my Twitter if you want to see some pretty interesting facts. It took me a while to compile this, but we have some really amazing leadership that go back a very long time, and this community has really been built by the Black community here in Northeast Ohio. So it's really interesting to read about some of these historical figures throughout our very own, even Lakewood history, which is really neat. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure I gave them a shout out at this moment. So thank you, Madam President.
Any further discussion? Councilperson Shebig.
Sorry, I'll go. Thank you for bringing this resolution forward. As we saw already tonight, how important it is to recognize diversity in our community. I'm proud to support this resolution to recognize the Black history and the impact that African Americans, Black Americans have had on our culture here and in building our country. So thank you.
Vice President Schachtner.
Thank you, Council President. And I would just say, sometimes, when you live in different areas, you take for granted about the education you can receive and just the awareness that may exist about Black history. So, and I grew up in Florida, and I was very limited in terms of what the curriculum taught. Teachers had to go above and beyond if they wanted to pull some of the Black Americans that contributed so much. I remember being assigned in elementary school, they gave every person someone to do a biography about. And some people got Picasso, some people got like Babe Ruth or Michael Jordan. and I got Benjamin Banneker. I was like, who the heck's Benjamin Banneker? But the African American who was brought over to this country, Breed, and his memory was so great and he was so skilled that when the architect of Washington, D.C., like just left town with his plans, he had it memorized and he redrew it. Also, something in there about an all-wooden clock that he built, which was pretty interesting. But I would just say the difference from my education living in South Florida to then going to college at Florida State University in Tallahassee, and I volunteered in the schools, and it was a predominantly African-American community, and going to the elementary schools and seeing how much of the history was really a part of the curriculum in every part, talking about people I've never heard of, and really glorifying the importance. And you just don't see that in all aspects of this country, in all areas of this country, in all education systems in this country. So I thank you for bringing this forward, and it's always important this month to remember that, you know, some history just isn't taught, and it's important to remind people what is actual American history. Thank you.
Any further comment?
Madam Chair, Madam
Councilman
President, I won't speak long, but I'm happy that we're doing, or we're considering tonight this resolution, and I'm happy to support it. And let's be sure to not overlook this in the future. Thank you.
All right, we do have one person signed in to speak, our co-chair of the Anti-Racism Task Force, Angelina Steiner.
Thank you, President Keppel, for bringing forth this resolution. It's really appreciated. Before I get to what I have typed down, what I'm going to say, I do want to say that this country has never reconciled with its history, its awful history of how it treated blacks in this country. From the moment that my ancestors were brought here on slave ships, and we were shackled, and our bodies were used as racial capital to build a capitalistic system that we have been shut out of completely. And we can never until we reconcile with that truth. Everything after that makes it easier for continued oppression of every other group. Everything starts with how Black people were treated and have been treated and are treated in this country. So I just want to make sure that that point is reiterated, because if you can make it okay to dehumanize me, you can make it easy to dehumanize every other group that comes after. So I do, now saying that, I do want to say thank you again for bringing this forward and for pulling in the racial equity plan and what we are going to be working on. This plan, it will be an important document to guide the work and efforts of Lakewood to live its values, to be an anti-racist community. This document will guide decisions for how budgeting decisions are made, to policies, to procedures, ordinances, and more. Similar to the community health needs assessment and what was revealed, the discovery process will be critical, and participation of as many involved in Lakewood governance will be of the utmost importance. This isn't meant to be a negative mark on the city. Again, it's about reconciliation, right? So we have to start somewhere. In fact, it should serve as a point of learning and opportunity to correct historical and long-lived institutional wrongs. Lakewood is diverse. We can't deny that. That's fact. We can look it up. We're diverse. But it's up to us. It's up to all of you to ensure that it's equitable, inclusive, and accessible where everyone can belong. The Racial Equity Plan will hold us all accountable for action, which will lead and lend to an anti-racist community. Because without action, words amount to nothing more than performative justice. Thank you for your time.
I don't believe we have anyone else signed in to speak on this item, unless anyone, okay. So Motion has been made and seconded to adopt the resolution. Again, if anyone wants to come down in front, we'll do a quick picture with the ceremonial resolution. So I will, motions are made and seconded to adopt. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. So we're going to do a quick picture down here, if anyone wants to join. Thank you. Yes.
Item 10, Resolution 2024-01, a resolution honoring Lakewood High School senior Bodie Smith for his outstanding academic accomplishments, including achievement of a perfect score on the ACT test.
A move to adopt. Motion's been made and seconded, and imagine we might want some discussion from Councilwoman Marks.
I'm very proud and happy to present this resolution to my grandson, Bodie Smith, who scored a perfect ACT score. And he not only is a brilliant young man, but a very talented musician. He's in the Lakewood Project. He plays the violin and the bass, and he's going to be performing at the Rock Hall on Saturday. So anybody from Lakewood who would like to go, we may have a future Mick Jagger here on our hands. So I'm so proud of you, Bodie, and your grandfather was very proud of you. So I'm very happy to present this resolution to you tonight. And I know you're going to do great things. So thank you for being here, and I just can't tell you how proud I am of you, and I love you very much.
Any other comments? I don't know how anyone would follow that. Okay, Councilman Baker's going to try.
I'm not going to do a good job of following that. Just, you know, to echo Councilwoman Mark's words, to see Lakewood High Lakewood High students, I mean, he's got a perfect score on the ACT. He's a musician. If that doesn't represent the best of what a really good public school system can produce. So I've never met you, but I'm super proud of you. Keep doing the work. And, you know, yeah, go be a great musician and a really smart one, too. So you have lots of options. So happy to support this resolution.
Any other comments? I'll just add also, yes, to the benefits of wonderful public school system. As a child of two public school teachers, I definitely agree with that. And also, just given our last resolution, I want to point out on that note, the Lakewood City Schools also has one of few schools to have the AP African American History program. So good job, Lakewood City Schools, but particularly good job to you, Bodie. So we're very proud, not as proud as your grandma, but very, very proud of you here in Lakewood. All right, so the other comments, we had a motion and a second to adopt. All those in favor? Aye. And we'll do our last picture of the evening. I'm sorry, Cindy, but we should have done that before. All right, so just messing up our whole agenda, but I think we're going to move, without objection, we'll move items 15 and 16 up. I understand Chief Fisher would like to get those going, so, and Mayor George, so item 15.
Item 15, a communication from Mayor George regarding an agreement with the West Shore Council of Governments for the purchase of a Bearcat for use by member communities.
Good evening, Councilwoman Keppel and members of council. The attached resolution would allow for the purchase of an important public safety vehicle by the West Shore Council of Governments, or WCOG. The total purchase and delivered price is approximately $382,000, and the allocated share of this amount for the city of Lakewood is a little over $104,000. Lakewood has been a member community of the COG for over 50 years. As you know, membership allows communities to pool resources for investment in critical safety equipment and vehicles. The vehicle at issue is armored and designated to address the most dangerous and volatile of criminal enforcement situations. Please see attached letter from Commander Smykowski for more information on the need for this purchase. The COG seeks to approve this purchase and amend its budget accordingly at its meeting on February 14th. To accommodate this procurement timing of the COG, the administration requests adoption of the resolution upon first reading at tonight's meeting. And I'd like to invite Commander Smykowski and also Director Matt Vanio of the West Shore Enforcement Bureau up. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The 2005 Webb acquired a 2005 Lenco Bearcat. It's a fully armored rescue vehicle from a Homeland Security grant. The Bearcat is utilized on the overwhelming majority of our SWAT callouts, crowd control activations, and SWAT training events. The current Bearcat is in poor condition and has reached its useful life expectancy of 15 to 20 years. The Bearcat is an integral vehicle to Webb SWAT and all of the communities within Webb. Losing the Bearcat would be detrimental to our ability to function and provide life-saving abilities to the communities which we serve. Our core tasks include emergency rescue, hostage situations or active threat, high-risk warrant service, violent fugitive apprehension, barricade operations, pre-planned high-risk event security, emergency response, regionalized training, and community service. Amongst the most critical risk risk control factors for these extremely hazardous operations is the armored vehicle. Within the 19 years the Bearcat has been in service, there are 2 documented cases within Webb that I am aware of which the Bearcat saved officers' lives from gunfire. One being in 2006 when the Bearcat was utilized to rescue officers from Lakewood PD who were pinned down by gunfire on Granger Avenue. The second incident occurred in 2018. In 2018, Webb's Bearcat was requested by a neighboring SWAT team in order to breach a door on a high-risk warrant service. Upon breach of the front door to the residence, the Bearcat took multiple rounds from an assault rifle. One of the rounds impacted directly into the driver's side front windshield. The Bearcat saved multiple officers' lives on this incident alone, including the Lakewood SWAT officer who was operating the Bearcat at the time of the incident. This alone is worth the entire cost of a replacement vehicle. There are multiple other times throughout the country, state, and other neighboring communities that an armored vehicle saved the lives of citizens as well as officers. Webb has researched multiple grants throughout 2023 to fund the purchase of a replacement Bearcat, but we are unsuccessful due to the unavailability of applicable grants being available. After reaching out to Lenco, the manufacturer for Bearcat, I learned that money from the CARES COVID relief program could have been used to fund the purchase of a Bearcat. I also learned that from the time a down payment is made to Lenco for the purchase of a Bearcat, the turnaround time is minimum of 12 to 18 months to actually receive the vehicle. The funding for the Bearcat was approved today. Our Bearcat will be at the end of its expected service life, leaving Webb SWAT and the COG cities without the possibility of being without an armored rescue vehicle. The replacement parts are becoming obsolete or hard to come by. This is paramount that we do not wait any longer to replace this vehicle. The Bearcat armored vehicle is a one-time purchase, estimated to be around $380,000, and not included in the current Webb budget for 2024. As stated above, the Bearcat is vital to the mission of SWAT to provide life-saving abilities to the communities which we serve and protect the lives of our officers. The photos up there, the damage from the rifle rounds in the 2018 incident when the Bearcat was shot. On behalf of Webb SWAT, I am requesting the City of Lakewood assist in the funding for the purchase of a new Bearcat. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. All right. Yes. First, we're going to just get the things out of the way. We're going to first move to receive and file. We're on the communication right now.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, and now we'll just go ahead and do our discussion probably around this while we have the communication with the information in front of us, and then we'll move on to the resolution. So, discussion. Vice President Checker.
Thank you. Just a couple questions. What is the allocation based upon like each city's contribution? How is that determined?
Do you have the information for that?
I can speak to this. This is, within the COG agreement, there's a formula for each municipality. It's based on valuation and population, and then a 10% base equity share. So it's all based on the COG agreement itself.
And what fund is this contribution going to be coming out of?
In speaking with Director Rankator, this is likely going to have to come out of the police budget, and then perhaps at the end of the year we can do some adjustments if income taxes or property taxes come in over the budgeted amount.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Councilman Rader.
Thank you, Madam President. And I got a chance to sit in the current Bear when we did the police academy back in 2018. And that was right before it got shot, I think, not too long before it actually saw some pretty significant service. Well, one question, and one thing that I'm a little bit stuck on here: why wasn't this included in the Webb budget for 2024? It seems sometimes expenses come up; they're unforeseen. This seems like something that should have been, especially since it's been around for 19 years. Did it finally go kaput on us, or what's the?
Sure, I can answer that, sir. Once again, Matt Vanyo, I'm the director of the West Shore Enforcement Bureau. I'm also the supervisor in charge of our narcotics unit within Webb itself. I can answer that question to the best of my ability. I was appointed in June of 2021. A lot of the Bearcat vehicles in the past have had the aid of grants available years past. Those grants pretty much for this type of equipment have pretty much dried up, but we had to cross every T and dot every I to make sure that those grants or any grants that were out there, state and or federal, would have been available to us.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but would you mind going into the microphone? Because if people are watching at home, they can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. So going back to the grants, we just researched a lot. It took about a year and a half worth to make sure that we were researching if any grants were available, and we were unable to find any grants. In fact, most of the geographical areas here within Ohio and abroad, actually throughout the country, are finding it very hard for those type of council of governments and or those regionalized SWAT teams that we have to procure any grants. So that was what took the time. I mean, that's a very logical question to ask, but that's the best answer I have for you, sir.
I understand that. And this West Shore is a little bit different than the city in that you're trying to get all 3 cities to line up, and I understand it can be a little bit difficult.
Yes, 6 cities. Yes, sir.
One thing, a couple of residents reached out to me, a little bit concerned that in replacing this vehicle, we might like step up like a model or something in order to, you know, the latest, greatest would be even a more step towards a higher military grade type vehicle. One concern they brought to me was just to make sure that whatever we get just replaces what we have and that we're not going this trajectory of further militarization. Because again, I understand the value and I understand that this piece of equipment is used a lot by the entire West Shore region. It's not lost on me. And in Googling this, I did find some versions of the Bearcat that are very much military use vehicles. So I mean, before I would want to vote on something, I'd like to see like the proposal or at least see the vehicle you're planning to purchase. Is there any kind of, do we have any kind of information on that available to us tonight?
I don't have any photographs of it or anything, but the one that we're looking to get is very similar to ours that we currently have. It's a newer version, obviously.
The G3, is that the?
It's the G3, that's correct.
Okay.
And, the mayor actually, we had a neighboring agency, we brought it out to the mayor's meeting so that way they can kind of get a look at it and kind of see the difference between the new one and our current old one, which is the new one's just slightly bigger. It's got a little bit more room. There's some other options available for officer safety, including just the way the doors open on it and having side passenger doors, doors that actually open normal and not the suicide doors that are currently on there the way they're made. It's the Bearcat themselves, they were mainly designed for law enforcement purposes. They weren't meant to be military grade vehicles. They're made for law enforcement. There's other vehicles out there that are armored, but they are from the military surplus, and I don't think anyone wants to see an MRAP driving around the city of Lakewood. So,
Sure,
I mean,
right.
it's...
And I will say the way that you've used this vehicle, I was talking to President Keppel here in Lakewood, has been, you know, we've attended some of the protests where the vehicle may or might not have been used, but it was not used in a way where we've seen across the country where they've been used to break up crowds and shoot tear gas and things. You've been incredibly astute about the community relation aspect of policing around that, and I just want to thank you for that. The process does to me seem a little bit out of step with a normal process, and at this moment I'm not 100% sure I could support this personally, but I wouldn't go so far as to dissuade others of this body to do the same. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion, questions? I'll go Councilman Baker for public safety, and then we'll come back to Streebig.
Thank you. My question, and this perhaps is easily answered, but where is this vehicle currently kind of housed, and where will it be housed?
It's currently housed in Lakewood.
Okay.
And we keep it housed in Lakewood.
So all response to the West Shore communities come from Lakewood and go wherever?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Streebig?
Thank you. You may or may not know that I am currently in the Citizens Academy. And I just had a tour of our current Bearcat and have gotten to know our police officers over the last month. And I would say that I can 100% support this tonight, this resolution, to keep our police officers safe. when you look at this picture of this shattered windshield, there's no question in my mind that we absolutely have to give them the tools that they need to protect our citizens in Lakewood and keep themselves safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment, question? Yep. Councilman Bullock.
Thanks, Madam President. Thank you, officers and commanders. The just a little bit more follow on is there a percentage of time in which West Shore Council of Government law enforcement serves here or there, or it doesn't work that way? It's just responsive to the need that arises within the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 cities? Okay, so the mayor's statement before about the formula, that's the best attempts to proactively cost share based on the fact that we prepare for law enforcement, but we don't actually know actual use in Lakewood versus Fairview Park, et cetera, until after the fact. I guess I'm just trying to get my head around how we structure things.
I can answer,
Okay.
then you can follow up. Yeah, yes, it's not based on the number of call-outs for the vehicle. Again, it's tied to the COG agreement and the formula within the COG agreement that each municipality pays its dues. And I have a one-sheeter I could have sent beforehand, but I can send that afterwards of what each municipality within the COG is due.
Okay, thanks. And obviously, this is the kind of preparedness we hope never to use. Sounds like it's been used in relatively infrequent occasions, which is positive.
So just as for the information, based on these last 5 years of the number of times that we've had any type of activations or anything like that, Lakewood's actually had the most use out of the Bearcat by more than double of any of the other West Shore communities. Just in the 5 years, it's been out roughly on 35 occasions for Lakewood, and then followed by Rocky River and Westlake at 14, North Olmsted 8, Fairview Park 8, Bay Village 4, Web Narcotics 4, and then other just assists from other agencies would have been another 18 times.
Okay. Thank you. And, you know, in general, city councils are supposed to follow the regular procedures of 3 meetings, et cetera. I understand that agencies are always trying to find grant funds to lower the total cost. And so I understand the request to pass the first reading tonight. Thank you for being here to thoroughly discuss so that we have a chance in at least one meeting to fully get informed. Is that damage that you're showing on the screen still present, or has that been repaired?
No, that was repaired. We actually still kept the glass windshield itself. We have it in the garage.
Okay.
But it was replaced.
Okay, so your point is just that that's an example of the kind of risk and/or protection involved?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for that data about how often it's been used. I think that's enlightening. Do you have any, with that, does it say, like, of those 35 instances, what types of use or for what types of incidents?
I can tell you there's mainly the activations that we have are for search warrant executions, and then followed by barricades and other types of special events, or anytime where we're activated, or even these crowd control events we were talking about with the different things going on within the city with the demonstrations, that we have this with us. And for the most part, I would say search warrant application, where we're surrounding a house or whatever it may be, to have that armored protection there for us. So that's one of the, 80% of the time when you make entry or you breach a door or you go into that house, about 80% of the time that's where you're going to have that's going to be your most likelihood where the bad things are going to happen, is when you initially encounter. So that's predominantly where it's been used.
Sure. Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes.
Those 35, sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's okay. Where did that voice come from? Yes, Chief Fisher.
Those 35 call-outs, the majority of those, Lakewood used it, but the call-outs were probably in Cleveland. The majority of those would be in Cleveland or other suburbs, or I mean, other locations based on narcotics investigations and high-risk entries where we're dealing with people that are known to have or propensity for violence. So the 35 deployments that Lakewood used it for weren't in the city of Lakewood per se. I would say the vast majority of them were in Cleveland.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So, thank you. That's information, good information to have. You would know, having been around involved there. And so I think to just following up on that with to Councilman Rader's point, so when it's been used for crowd events, it's been there as a just in case or deterrent, pretty much. Is that would you say that's an
Yes.
accurate statement? Okay. And I know actually Chief Fisher and I met on the street at one of them. So like I know Lakewood's officers have been handling that with a lot of discretion and valor. So
Yeah, it's usually not even in view of the public. It's just there. We keep it purposely out of the view of the public.
sure. Okay. All right. Any other further discussion? Oh, I do have. So do we have any? Is there like a set policy or a checklist of like this is when it may or may not be used, or a guideline of how you would decide whether or not it would be?
If we're activated for a search warrant, barricade, hostage rescue, or any type of active threat, that we're bringing our Bearcat with us. If it's like sometimes we have these different demonstrations happening, we may have it with us just because there could be the possibility of something from the outside, maybe not necessarily due to a demonstration or a protest of any sort, but there might be something from the outside that we're worried about. That's where we keep it just out of sight, out of mind, kind of just have it there where we have it near where we're at, so we're not trying to go find it in the event that we actually needed it for anything. But it's only used, it would only come out in those events for, active threat actually happening. Now with search warrants and stuff like that, there's a reason that the SWAT team has been activated to do this stuff. So we're bringing it with us because it obviously with certain criteria, we have the cert threat criteria that we look at, and there is a threshold that we look at when SWAT gets activated. So that's based on what we're going off of. It has a lot to do with the violence. If we have known people, how much violence they have, and are they likely to be armed, and things like that we're looking at.
Thank you. Yeah, so just repeat back to you and make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So this vehicle would not be used unless SWAT were activated. Is that accurate?
Yes, or it's a community engagement where we have it bring it out.
Well, there you go, Jason. It is going to be at Meet the Trucks.
It does.
Yes, Olivia will be thrilled.
There goes my other question.
All right. All right. Any further questions, comments? All right. With that, I will. Are we still on the communication? We are. All right. So, we've received and filed. We already moved or seconded. So, all those in favor? Aye. All right. And that motion passes. So now we are on 16.
Item 16, Resolution 2024-05, a resolution to take effect immediately authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the West Shore Council of Governments for the purchase of a Bearcat armored vehicle for use by the member communities, with Lakewood's allocated share of the cost being $104,316.
I will move to adopt. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. And that motion passes. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
All right. So,
Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we're back to the top.
Item 1, Ordinance 1, 2024. An ordinance to take effect immediately to approve the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as parts of the various component codes of the codified ordinances and to provide for the publication of such new matter.
Move to defer.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Passes.
Item 2, report from Committee of the Whole held January 29th, 2024.
No, I just need to get back. I'm just used to running it. All right, here we go. All right. Dear colleagues, Committee of the Whole met on January 29th to hear a presentation from the Lakewood Fire Department about its new neighborhood paramedic program. The neighborhood paramedic program is a unique prevention program aimed at helping Lakewood seniors to successfully age in place and reduce their risk of experiencing a fall. Lakewood seniors are referred to the neighborhood paramedic program by EMS after they have suffered a fall in their home. Seniors may also self-refer to the neighborhood paramedic to discuss fall prevention and safety at home. The neighborhood paramedic will make home visits to recommend appropriate home modifications, make referrals, flag health concerns, and provide other services. The committee heard from the current neighborhood paramedic, Ryan Berth, regarding the program's past performance, recent changes, and his vision for expanding the program. Over the next several years, Mr. Berth intends to serve more residents and address a greater variety of their needs, ranging from CPR training to car seat installations. Committee members expressed support and enthusiasm for this innovative prevention program. Any member of the public interested in the program for themselves, a friend or family member may contact the neighborhood paramedic or call 216-659-0009. Respectfully submitted. I'll move to receive and file that report. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Item 3, report from Finance Committee held today, February 5th, 2024.
All right.
Vice President Schechner.
Thank you. I'll be brief because all members of council were present, so I don't know what to report. You all know what happened. But anyway, we talked about ordinances that would allow us to take out notes and bonds. The notes, of course, are for projects that are not yet completed or they're down the pike. It's to borrow in order to pay for them. The bonds typically are longer term, and we use those to retire old notes or to consolidate outstanding bonds. What we did learn was that we're in good financial shape. The way that we pay for our debt service is through service fees for water and sewer and through property tax levy, debt service levy, which means that our ability to borrow is directly tied to the values and health of our homes. And since our homes are in good shape, we're in good shape financially. During that committee meeting, there was a substitute for Ordinance 46-2023 to include some other items into that note. That substitution was approved and substituted at the committee level. At the conclusion of the committee, we did recommend for approval Ordinance 43, all ordinances that are before us regarding the notes and bonds, which was 43-2023 through 47-2023 and 46-2023 as substituted. We did defer Resolution 23-74, which will be heard at a later time. Please receive and file this committee oral report, whatever I call it.
Is that a motion?
It is now.
All right. So I will second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Item 4, Ordinance 43, 2023, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $2,555,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of improving Bunce Road, Crest Lane, Gill Avenue, Onondaga Avenue, Wayne Avenue, and Webb Road, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and approving related matters and declaring an emergency.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Item 5, Ordinance 44, 2023, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount not to exceed $4.8 million in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of designing, engineering, and constructing sewer improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and approving related matters.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? None. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Item 6, Ordinance 45, 2023, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $615,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of improving sidewalks within the city and approving related matters.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nope. That motion passes.
Item 7, Ordinance 46, 2023, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $1,020,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of constructing a refuse recycling facility, renovating refuse truck parking facility, replacing or improving the roofs of public buildings, including the municipal facilities garage, improving the sites thereof, including infrastructure improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and approving related matters.
I will move to substitute.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call. Yep.
Baker. Bullock.
Yes.
Keppel.
Yes.
Marks.
Yes.
Rader.
Yes.
Shackner.
Yes.
Strebe.
Yes.
And move to adopt. Right.
Mm.
Substitute. Yep.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, sorry.
Vice President Checkner.
I'll just point out that the substitute is an amount not to exceed $3,240,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds, and so forth, just for our clarity. Thank you.
Yeah, and, pardon me, Madam
Yeah,
President.
Councilman Baker.
And
Or Bullock, sorry.
That's an increase, the proposed substitute is an increase over the previous amount, and could we clarify for the record, perhaps with the assistance of the Finance Director, the basis for that increase? Or with the help of the Finance?
Or the chair.
One of us.
Your discretion.
I'll let Director Rekentor point out the items that were added into 46-20.
Director Rekentor.
Madam President, the increases were due to the project at Lakewood Park, where we're doing sewer work and paving additional spaces at the park. That's the lion's share of it. And then there was a portion of it that pertained to Fire Station 1 and their HVAC system, as we discussed in the Finance Committee.
Great, thank you. Always good to clarify. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Item 8, Ordinance 47, 2023, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $41 million of bonds for the purposes of retiring notes issued for the purpose of designing, engineering, permitting, and constructing a new outfall stone revetment and rehabilitating the existing sewers, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, improving and reconstructing the city's recycling facility, improving the city's jail, improving sidewalks within the city, replacing or improving the roof of the Public Works Garage and other public buildings, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, improving heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems in various city facilities, including the Municipal Utilities Garage, wastewater treatment plant, Women's Club Pavilion, and City Hall, improving Detroit Road, Hilliard Road, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, designing, engineering, and constructing water improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, improving parks within the city, including Foster Pool and other park improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, improving Hilliard Road and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, designing, engineering, and constructing sewer improvements, constructing a refuse recycling facility and animal shelter, renovating refuse truck parking facility, replacing or improving the roofs of public buildings, including the Municipal Facilities Garage, improving the sites thereof, including infrastructure improvements, improving parks within the city, including Foster Pool, Lakewood Park, and other park improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, improving sidewalks within the city, and improving Arthur Avenue, Lakeland Avenue, Olivewood Avenue, Esther Avenue, Roycroft Avenue, Wyandotte Avenue, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, approving related matters in connection with the issuance of the bonds.
Move to adopt. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Madam President?
Yes.
I probably could have shared this comment when Councilman Schachter, the finance chair, was reporting on the committee, but I just want to express a vote of confidence and thanks to the finance team, the finance director and his team, and the bond counsel, our legal counsel who does this, and then our bank, our underwriter. So what we're talking about tonight in the ordinances, you hear a lot of needs that are going to be taken care of, but what we're really doing tonight is creating financial capacity and doing it in a systematic and orderly and thoughtful manner. We do this every year, and so this is kind of an annual checkup on our financials to assess how much debt have we taken on? Are we doing a good job of retiring the stuff that's been on the books from previous years? And how much capacity can we create to take on the new needs or the current needs for the new year? So I do think that we do a thorough and consistent job, and so I want to not take that for granted, because what that does is it means that the team on this side of the room that has to build it all can get off to a timely beginning and not fall behind, not face unnecessary cost overruns because of delays. That's number one. Number two, for the taxpayers, we're minimizing the interest costs. So in some ways that's very dry, boring sounding stuff, but it's quite important because it's the city leadership doing what we can do to keep the cost down on the residents, and that's responsible. So I think it should be recognized, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes.
Item 9, Resolution 2023-74, a resolution to take effect immediately approving the City of Lakewood's financial internal controls.
Move to defer.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Item 14, communication from Mayor George regarding mayoral reappointments to the Lakewood Heritage Advisory Board.
Mayor George.
Dear City Council, it is my pleasure to reappoint Peter Ketter and Linda Barbero to the Lakewood Heritage Advisory Board. I am grateful to these individuals for their willingness to continue volunteering their time, energy, and knowledge to improve the quality of Lakewood. Their qualifications, know-how, and dedication to our city will be an asset to each of these boards and commissions.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Item 17, communication from Finance Director Rankator regarding 2024 municipal capital leases.
Director Rankator.
President Keppel and members of council, what our communication pertains to the municipal capital lease ordinance, not to exceed $3.53 million. It covers a new fire engine number 4, fire car number 3, a fire rescue boat, an animal warden truck, forestry chipper, 5 new police vehicles, some refuse vehicles, and an aging transport bus, and a streets plowed dump truck. Respectfully request that this legislation be placed on first reading and referred to Finance Committee.
Thank you. Move to receive and file.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Item 18, Resolution 2024-06, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the Director of Finance to enter into equipment leases in forms approved by the Director of Law on behalf of the City of Lakewood.
Move to refer to finance.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, just real brief.
Vice President Schachter.
Thank you. I would just say, because I know these questions have come up in the past, if when we do hear this in finance, if y'all could have the information available about how this coincides with the climate action plan and things like that in terms of vehicle leases. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor? Aye. And opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 19, communication from Director Gordon regarding 2024 water main and lead service line replacement project, Ohio EPA Project 9931.
Director Gordon.
Thank you. Dear President Keppel and members of City Council, the above referenced project entails the construction of new water mains and lead service line replacements for Glenberry, Mars, and Marlowe Avenues, including sewer and pavement improvements. The attached resolution is required in order to move forward with a portion of the project's funding. The city has secured up to $669,920 in funding through the Water Supply Revolving Loan Account, which includes 53% principal forgiveness for lead service line replacements for the project. This $4.35 million project is expected to be funded as follows. I request that City Council approve and pass the attached legislation on first reading, but if needed, refer to the necessary appropriate committee for review so that the project may proceed and be prepared for EPA funding on May 1st, 2024. Please let me know if you have any further questions.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Vice President Schachtner.
Thank you. Just clarify for me so I don't have to reread this over and over again. Sorry, Director Gordon. All right, how much of this is being funded by the city? How much is the money is coming from grants? Is it completely grant funded? A portion of it is grant funded?
47% would come from the city.
Okay, that's 100 minus 53, right? Do that pretty quick. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilman Rader.
Thank you, Madam President. This is currently in our capital budget, correct? This is just kind of sort of...
This project?
Yeah.
Yes, and just to be clear, this lead service line replacement is something that we have applied for in years past.
Yeah, okay. So it's not out of the norm. I'd be comfortable passing it tonight, especially since it's included in our budget document, so.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion to receive and file. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 20, Resolution 2024-07, a resolution authorizing the mayor, director of public works, finance director, and purchasing manager to apply for, accept, and enter into a water supply revolving loan account agreement on behalf of the city of Lakewood for the construction of the 2024 water main and lead service line replacement project and designating a dedicated repayment source for the loan.
I'm inclined to move to adopt tonight, since this is saving the city money, and right in the long run of something that's already budgeted. So I will move to adopt. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Councilman Bing.
Thank you, Council President. And I agree with passing tonight that this program, let's hurry up and try to get the loan money, which most of it's forgivable anyways. I would be interested at some point in the future, and I think both for my own personal edification, but I think it's also good to maybe have a committee hearing about it. And I know there are maps online about lead surface lines and where they're at in the city and what our plan is to replace them. I do think that's really relevant information we should, talk about. So I'll work with you, Director Gordon, on figuring out a way to do that so we can all be educated on it and do what we can to help support you in your work in doing it.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes, Councilman Bullock.
Thanks for the discussion. Thanks, Director Gordon. So I'm looking actually still on one screen back at the communication. Just want to understand the numbers. So the city secured almost 670,000, and that would, so the request tonight is to accept that, to be authorized to accept the grant funds from the state, and then that would be used to split out as partly principal forgiveness and partly a loan. I'm not sure I followed the chart. Or would it all go into principal forgiveness?
So basically, we would lock up $669,000, and then we would be responsible for the remaining 47%. And that's pretty much how you see the split there. And with the loan, it comes with a 0% interest rate over 20 years, so we would need to pay a loan processing fee, which is included there in italics. But again, in the grand scheme of things, we would be saving a significant amount of money.
Okay, so the 669 is the first two lines there added up, 355 and 314. Is that right? Okay, I just want to follow what's going on. Okay, thank you. Appreciate the good work by the City Hall team to defray the cost of these essential projects. And I agree with Councilman Baker's point. It'd be good to get our hands around a look ahead. What are the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years look like in terms of, you know, planning an ideal case, a conservative case, you know, and somewhere in between if we continue to have success getting additional funds like this. It just helps us to be more strategic and not just talk about these issues piecemeal. But either which way, it's important that we're getting the work done, so thank you.
Correct. So currently, when it comes to the lead service line replacements, we're replacing them within all of our water main projects when we come across them. And then also, in any cases we come across a lead service line in a water break, we would replace it then as well. So we're certainly being as proactive as we can be and exploring many different options when it comes to lead service line replacement.
Any further discussion? Thank you. Yeah, it just called to mind the health needs assessment. There was a question about water safety. I remember that there was more interest, more concern about a water safety than I think some of us expected, and so it's always good to be on top of this. And I also appreciate the advance call and the direct call about this item in advance, so we could do that. So,
thank
you.
you.
All right. Yep. All right. So, we have a motion to adopt. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. So we are on public comment. Do we have any e-comments? I think we already addressed it. Do you have anyone signed in to speak? Oh. Well, we'll do the signed in and then we'll. All right, so top one, now it's finally. All right, Robert Ofkin? Organ, sorry, I should know that by now. Please address the chair, keep your remarks courteous, and you've got 5 minutes.
Hey, my name is Robert Organ. I live at 14513 Bays. I'm in Ward 3. Thank you for hearing me over the last few weeks that I've been trying to talk to so many of you. Mayor, administration, thank you for being here and hearing me out. I had some prepared remarks tonight, but over the few weeks that I've been talking to so many of you, we've gone over a lot of the, you all have gone over a lot of the budget issues that we're facing with, redoing the sewage lines, repaving streets. I got a chance to look at the draft of the active transportation plan and the action plan, and that's really formulated a lot of what I have to say tonight. Last week, it struck me that we're looking at the community paramedic program and talking about fall safety and the safety of people aging in place, and we're repaving streets and things like that, and it all comes down to money a lot of the time and safety. And if we're talking about paving streets or we're ripping up the streets to redo the sewage lines, why not make the streets safer now for people walking and biking? And in addition, it will save the city money in the long term because bikes and pedestrians do much less damage to the streets here in Lakewood than heavy vehicle use. So that is a really big issue for me. I walk and I bike everywhere that I can. And just tonight and over the last week, I've had a number of close calls. Councilman Bullock, the intersection that we discussed, we had a very close call on the way here tonight. So, and we can't blame the driver. He couldn't see around the excessive parked cars at that intersection. So, if you go on social media, as I know a lot of you do, you'll see that there are often people reaching out, asking for recommendations on where to move in the Cleveland area. They're relocating for a job or they're relocating for things that we talked about tonight because it's so accepting of a community. And Lakewood is always one of the top places mentioned. because it's accepting, because it's walkable, bikeable, it's dense. There are lots of great restaurants, bars, shops, all of those things. And it's really great that all those things are dense and walkable, but at the same time, if it's not safe to get places like on Detroit Avenue and there's no bike lane, I don't see how we can really sell ourselves as a dense walkable area if it's not safe to do those things. So with the active transportation plan, the draft being discussed tomorrow, I believe, with that coming up, I would urge you to actually take action instead of talking about it and not following through like we've done so many times in the past. And obviously not everybody here has had control on that. So I really just think we could take action and quickly, temporarily, see how things go, and it'll save the city money. Thank you.
Thank you for being here and waiting through a long meeting to have your voice heard. Yes. Thank you.
Madam President.
All right. We have no one else signed in to speak.
Madam President.
yes,
I just want to respond to Mr.
yes.
Organ and his wife, also here, and a number of others. So I love what you said, and I think you made a number of excellent points that it's less expensive for concrete maintenance if a light vehicle or a two-footed person goes over that same square footage. And that's something that we probably don't appreciate or factor into our calculus as much. I think the city of Lakewood has done a fair amount of work over the last 10, 15 years, depending on how you count, to improve our bikeways, improve our planning, to delegate and designate bikeways. But we haven't yet really taken the big step of protected bike lanes or cycle tracks or multi-use paths. We have some of them here and there, but to really take the quantum leap of making it safe for the interested but cautious quadrant, and it's more than a quadrant, it's probably half of the potential bicycle user pie, you got to really commit. And so I think we're being invited by our residents, or at least this group of interested and committed residents, to take that step. I know that some of my colleagues have a legislation that's pending. We've all supported the Climate Action Plan. We've all just talked about a lot of thoughtful budgeting and capital planning. But to the resident's point, if we can use that every year to also have a 2-for-1 where we're moving meaningfully on these big visionary transformative investments, then all of a sudden it's within reach. So I really think that this should be the year when we commit to take a bigger step. It's going to be multiple years of implementation. And the last thing is what was referred to, there's some things that cost $0, and that would be improving the sight lines at the intersection. This is a police and public works concern. On a lot of Madison and a lot of Detroit, the only safe way for a north-south residential street driver to merge safely into east-west traffic is not only kind of creep forward into the crosswalk, but into the bike lane. So people do it because they can't blindly pull into and get clipped. But then you're either cannibalizing pedestrian access or bike access, or you're hazarding the safety of those users. So we could today remove on-street parking at those intersections. That is kind of a third rail often for city leaders and planners. But if we're serious about making safety and making it multi-use, so I'm looking at the police chief, but actually that now is a planning director. It's a multi-departmental challenge, and maybe that's part of why it doesn't always get addressed or addressed quickly. What we would do is we would find ways to accommodate the legitimate parking needs without stepping on the toes of safety at the intersections. So I don't have a quick and easy solution, but I do think we're obligated to start working on it anew. I know there's been some effort in years past, but we could really tackle that, and that would be another opportunity. Thanks.
All right. Yes, just come on up and state your name and address for the record. And
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ted Babcock. I'm at 2078 Lark Street. I just moved to Lakewood a little over a year ago with my girlfriend from downtown for about 4 years. I'm a native of Northeast Ohio, and I grew up in Menor. So leaving downtown, we moved back to Cleveland in fall of 19, and we're there for about 3 years. And I just wanted to echo this gentleman's comments. I didn't come here with a plan to say anything, but I do 100% of my transportation by walking or public transportation, and that was a big factor of why we chose to move to this community. And it is very safe, and I love, you know, how dense everything is, and I can get my groceries and I can do my shopping and all that stuff. So I just wanted to echo what you said and say anything we can do to continue to make walking safer. I walked here tonight, and I'm going to be walking home, so if I can get an escort or something, no, I'm just joking. Yeah, at any time that anything's being considered, and I appreciate the work that's being done on water lines and everything else, but just wanted to echo that and say thank you for all your hard work.
Guess it isn't better in Menor.
all right. With that, any announcements from council members? Councilwoman Striebeck.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everyone that February 20th is the last day to register to vote in the primary on March 19th, and that the League of Women Voters will be at Lakewood High School tomorrow to register the seniors. And any seniors that will be there need to bring their driver's license and or know the last 4 numbers of their Social Security. Thank you.
Thank you. And also worth noting that 17-year-olds who will be 18 in November have the right to vote in the primary.
Correct.
Yes. All right. Any other announcements from council? Announcements from the administration? Nope. All right. With that, I will move to adjourn. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. And we are adjourned.